Hi Scorpio, welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your March 2021 tarot reading. Thanks to those of you who have liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, and donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you interested in booking a personal reading with me, just check out the description of the video for more details there. And as far as what we have in front of us, for anyone who's new to the channel, we have a Celtic cross spread in front of us as always, and then we also have an oracle card I pulled, a Mudra card, and we're actually going to start the reading by rolling those dice that we see in front of us. That's going to give us a bit of an idea as where your focus would be as far as the astrology goes. So get started with that. Okay, so we have Venus, and Venus is going to be in your 5th house for most of March, and then I think toward the end it's going to move into Aries, which is your 6th house. So could be a focus on romance, creativity, but also finances around your work life as well. And speaking of Pisces energy, we have 5, so that's your 5th house, which is Pisces. Obviously, there's going to be a lot going on there in March. And we have Sagittarius, so this is actually your 2nd house. So yeah, definitely looks like there's going to be a focus on love and money for you guys for the most part this month. But we'll get started with the main spread. In the main situation position, we have the 8 of Cups. So this is actually Pisces energy. So again, like we were saying, with the 5th house energy there. But also, this card was trying to fall out kind of weird. So it was like halfway between upright and reversed, but it was a little more upright. So I kept it in the upright position, but just wanted to mention that. And what that could be saying is that for some of you, you are ready to walk away from a certain situation that you feel like you're not getting enough fulfillment in. But for others of you, you might still be a bit on the fence around that. And energetically speaking, this could be talking about right when we get toward the very end of February, leading into March, because that's pretty much when we're going to be in those degrees of Pisces. This card represents the first 10 degrees of Pisces. And in the challenger obstacle position, we have the 8 of Wands, which is Sagittarius energy, which we saw with the dice as well, and 4 of Pentacles, which is Capricorn energy, which is your 3rd house communication. So I feel like this is saying that what the challenge is here is obviously with 8 of Cups, it's natural to say that there's some level of disappointment that you have around the situation. You also see that with the 5 of Cups, but with the 8 of Cups, it's more of finally making a decision to take action on that feeling. And with the challenger obstacle position here, I feel like this is saying that there was potential in this situation, which is obviously probably why you went for as long as you were to begin with. But what the challenge could be is that, maybe you weren't opening up as far as communication goes. So, for example, yes, there might have been some disappointment around the situation, but you might have been withholding communicating that disappointment. And I feel like this coming up in the challenger position says that in doing so, you might have actually seen that forward progress that you wanted to see, but due to your, for whatever reason you feel like you didn't want to open up and express that, you might have just felt like it was just easier to walk away. In the foundation position, we have the 3 of Swords. So this is Libra energy, which for you guys is your 12th house. And obviously, again, we see this ties in with that 8 of Cups feeling, like I said, where there's probably some disappointment around the situation. And again, with this pointing to your 12th house, I'm getting that same vibe too, which is to say you have this disappointment that you're experiencing, but you're not communicating that to anyone. So, in that regard, it might be just making the situation worse in a certain way. Now, there's actually not really anything going on in Libra, but toward the end of March, there's going to be a full moon in Libra, so that might actually help you guys clear that energy out if that's what you're experiencing. But yeah, it definitely looks like there's some disappointment there, and like I said, I feel like you're just not necessarily outwardly expressing that disappointment. All right, in the past position, we have the 6 of Pentacles, which is Taurus energy, 7 of Swords, which is Aquarius energy, King of Pentacles, more Taurus energy, and 2 of Swords, which is Libra energy. So Interesting to see the Taurus energy here because, of course, that's your opposite sign. And seeing that Aquarius energy in the mix as well, of course, there's tons of energy in Aquarius. And as those energies are moving through that sign, they're making square aspects with Mars and then also Uranus in Taurus. So a lot of tension between, could be even early upbringing versus your actual romantic relationships and partnerships in general. So could just be saying that in the past you might have, felt like you were in a situation where there was equal give and take, but you could have felt like you were taken advantage of in that situation where someone could have given a lot more in the connection compared to what you felt that they were giving you. And now that could just have you a bit more guarded around connections in general, the whole like fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me type dynamic there, But I will say, this is something that you guys could get caught up in being Scorpios with your opposite sign being Taurus because it's ruled by Venus, and Venus is more of like a receptive energy. So, if you're kind of closed off and not really wanting to give, with the Venusian energy in your opposite sign, you often will attract someone who also expects to receive, so if you're both kind of closed off that way, you could end up in these types of connections where, a person gives just enough and not anymore, because they're afraid of giving too much, so that could be dynamics that you guys might have been looking at recently as far as, why you caught in that type of cycle. Really trying to, remove the emotion from it and just think of it from a more logical standpoint to see how you could get out of that. In the present position, we have the Seven of Cups. So this is actually Scorpio energy here. So this is your sign, definitely. But again, we see that energy of the confusion right now. For me to see this in the present could just be saying that some of you might not be in that Eight of Cups energy yet. But another way I could see that, because like I was saying, it was a little bit weird the way it was trying to fall out almost like in a reverse position. Could just be saying that that's why you guys might refrain from actually moving forward. So, it could just be a cycle of confusion that you're in right now. We are technically still in the Mercury retrograde at the time I'm recording this. It'll be over when we officially get into March, but it'll still be in the shadow period. So, you might still be waiting to get a little bit of clarity around some situations. What I always say is, this person's quite literally in the dark, right? So we could see those cups clear as day. This person, on the other hand, there's a good chance they might not be able to see these cups. So could just be saying that you might not be seeing things quite clearly yet. And if that's the case, like I said, as these energies clear up in March, that should help. Near future position, we have the Tower and the Lovers. So, I mean, about as big of a contrast as you could have in energies, right? But really what this says to me, and, if this is around a romantic connection, it looks like there's probably, lessons to be learned on both sides. And why I say that is, if we think about the energies here, we see two people, right, in a tower, fully clothed, and then we see here they're completely stripped, and we see like the angel symbolism in the background. So it could just be saying that, it's possible both of you had a skewed outlook on the connection that wasn't really healthy for either of you. And then whatever this tower moment is could just be like a bit of a, ego check for both of you, to where you're actually able to, see, all right, actually see the human being behind it all, right? So maybe you guys both had a lot of misconceptions about each other, and, maybe had these expectations that weren't necessarily unrealistic, but might have taken some work for you guys to get there. And then with the Lover's energy, you could just be saying, all right, well, when you strip all that, and this person's expecting this, the other person's expecting that, when you strip all that away, there's still love there, right? But, obviously you're going to see each other in a more realistic light. So I'm not necessarily seeing like ground shaking aspects that would cause this. I mean, some of the stuff we've gone through already has been more likely to have caused something like that. But for some of you, it might even be that Virgo full moon we're going to have soon, because it's going to make a supportive aspect with Uranus. So you might get a bit of a sudden insight there. But aside from that, I'm not really seeing anything that jumps out as a specific timeline for when that'll happen, but obviously it's in a near future position. All right, in the position of your influence on the situation, we have the Page of Swords. So I will say this does look like you're probably getting close to deciding to actually speak up on whatever the situation is that you guys are going through. Especially given that if we put the card back in the spread, he's kind of looking toward the Three of Swords there, right? But we could see what his stance looks like. There's a little bit of reluctance to speak out, right? The pages, they're not at the knight level, queen level, or king level, so they're still growing in their confidence with the element. So it could just be saying, you're maybe building up the confidence to communicate around whatever this situation was, this disappointment was. Maybe even through social media as well, because like I point out to people, those trees in the background always just remind me of the F from the Facebook logo. So it could just be saying that you might be reaching out to someone via social media to let them know what's on your mind. In the environment position, we have the Knight of Swords, which is Gemini energy, the Hermit, which is Virgo energy, and Justice, which is Libra energy. So interesting energies here, because on the one hand, if this is pointing to you, and this is just saying that these are the environmental energies having an impact on you, could just be saying that these are all things that have come up for your review during the Mercury retrograde. Like I said, that's been taking place in your 4th house, which could bring up some early beliefs that you might have learned growing up. The Hermit, now this could be pointing to that Virgo full moon that I mentioned we're going to be having soon toward the very end of February. And then, like I said, that's going to make a supportive aspect with Uranus in your opposite sign. So again, you could be looking at relationships and how you interact in them in a different perspective. And then the Justice card here, that could be pointing to the Libra full moon that we have toward the end of March. So basically, especially given that that's a 12th house full moon for you guys, that could be where you're finally able to clear that out, that energy out that you've been holding on to. So that's if it's your energy. Now, if this is another person, on the other hand, this could just be saying that they might have been a bit more introspective and maybe looking at how they've been interacting in the connection as well. For example, maybe if they were, I don't necessarily want to say overpowering you, but maybe if they were just trying to exert a little bit more influence over the connection than you, because, if we look at the side-by-side comparison with the Page and the Knight, could just be saying that, maybe they've been looking at that, right, and how they've been interacting in the connection, and now they're actually going to focus on bringing a more balanced approach to the connection. So, kind of like I was saying, if one person's always expecting to receive, or rather, if both people are always expecting to receive without giving, right, then obviously you could end up in those stalemate positions. So could just be saying, and that would also make sense as far as what I was saying with this card here, showing that maybe both sides actually needed to go through a bit of an ego check, and then that could actually bring you guys back together in a much more positive way. All right. And in the hopes or fears position, we have the Nine of Wands. Just kind of weird. I don't necessarily see this as an energy you would have as a hope or a fear, Some of you, this could just be saying that you're still hoping to keep your guard up, So even if you are opening up somewhat, because, if we look at this guy's facial expression, he's like looking off in the distance, but has that real reluctant look in his face. So to me, that could just be saying that you guys are hoping that even if you do open up, you still will remain cautious, and not let your guard down too much. Like I said, I don't really see this as coming up as a fear or a hope, but I would say if it were to lean more in one direction, I would say hope in that regard, where you're like kind of wanting to open up a little bit, but still stay guarded. And in the outcome position, we have the Sun and the Nine of Swords. So again, a huge contrast in energy, right? Almost like we saw with the Tower and Lovers. But I could see this playing out a couple different ways. For one, it could just be saying that things do go right. Whatever this situation is does get corrected and improved, and you guys are able to move forward. But then you might start to overthink it and feel like, okay, yeah, this is great now, but how long is it going to last, right? I get it, but, obviously we could see where that could be problematic to have that thought process. For others of you, this could just be saying that maybe some of you won't communicate what's going on in your minds, and what you'll do is on the outside you'll give up that, you give out that energy that everything's fine, but underneath it all you're really just still, really stuck in your head around the situation. So, I will say, I think I mentioned it to you guys quite a bit last year while Saturn was in your third house communication, how, that could have been something that was really coming up for review with you guys around what you do say, what you don't say, how you say it, right, why you say it. And technically, for most of you, that energy's probably moved on into your fourth house. But for some of you, that energy, even though it's in Aquarius now, might still be in your third house. So, it could be a bit of a struggle for some of you still to actually be a bit more open around communication. But yeah, for most of you, I will say, though, it's probably the first thing that I was feeling, that things are going to be turning around for you guys. But again, like I said, it's just a matter of trying to trust that. Because I mean, sometimes we downplay the significance of having heavy fourth house transits, but I mean, those really are the ones where you look at things that you've held on to, from your early upbringing. And then, like I said, it was making all those intense aspects, all those planets moving through Aquarius were making intense aspects with Mars and Uranus. So, could have definitely rattled you guys a bit, but for the most part, a lot of that energy is going to settle. Obviously, Saturn's going to be there for a while, but could just be saying that could have you guys a bit gun shy. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the Five of Pentacles. So this is actually Taurus energy. So again, with your opposite sign and the first 10 degrees of Taurus, which is where Uranus is. So it could just be saying that this is obviously, you guys are going through a bit of a rough stretch in that regard. Good thing is, right underneath that, we do see a Wheel of Fortune. So again, another indicator that, yeah, this stuff is definitely a bit rough right now, but it looks like it'll start to clear up for you guys. All right, so we'll move on to the Oracle card, and you guys got To Be Fair. There's the artwork. The number is 38, and we'll see what that says. Definitely looks like a Libra vibe there too, right, with the scales. So definitely could be pointing to some significance for you guys when you have that full moon in Libra toward the end of March, which, like I said, that's a 12th house full moon, and it's going to be opposite Chiron, so it could definitely bring some things up to the surface then, so keep that in mind. All right, it says balance, justice, a need to consider options, mutual benefit, the law of cause and effect. The Oracle's message: life offers experiences that are challenging and experiences that are nourishing, yet over time they strike a balance. You move from being, from stasis, to doing, from discovering, to loving, to letting go, to being again. Life is a pendulum swinging between all of these states. You will always oscillate back and forth between doing and being. If you are not content with where you are at this moment, remember that all experiences have their place. Accept them without judgment, and you will see how the universe adjusts in perfect balance. You reap what you sow. For every cause, there is an effect. Wondrous things will be revealed now. So it was interesting there where it said, you reap what you sow, because that brought me back to what I was saying with that relationship dynamic. If you guys find yourselves in that type of dynamic where, you give some, but not too much, because maybe you've done that in the past and it totally backfired on you, but then you could also be drawing people who think the same way, so that could just lead to like stalemate energy in your connections. So hopefully that resonated. The relationship message says, can you find a way to achieve fairness right now? This is a time for listening as well as speaking, for understanding as well as asking to be understood. There is much to be learned, and you will learn it if you remain open and objective, weighing options and considering all sides. Your heart wants to connect to others, so allow for a balanced exchange of ideas and actions. The best kind of relationship is one in which there is mutual benefit and each party feels heard, valued, and respected. Be fair to all. So, I mean, sounds like pretty solid advice there, right? Like I said, maybe easier said than done for you guys, because if you did have that heavy experience when it came to communicating while Saturn was moving through your third, like I said, you still might be coming out of that. So it could still be a bit difficult for you guys. And like I said, keep in mind, we are, at the time I'm recording this anyway, we're right toward the very end of Mercury retrograde, and it's still going to be in shadow until around the middle of March. So that certainly could help add to the intensity of that feeling as well. So as we start to move through March, you'll probably feel the energy lift more. The prosperity message says, now is the time for even exchanges. Justice will prevail, and you will be treated accordingly. In all your affairs, you will be able to negotiate fair settlements. Mutual gain is the gift to you and your partners and colleagues. This is also a good time to square your finances and take stock of how you're compensated for your work. This card signifies balance, justice, and negotiations, so remember that all things must be fairly recompensed. Keep this as your truth, and so it will be. So definitely a pretty good message there, especially as far as it said justice will prevail, because that made me think of the fact that we did have the justice card in your environment. So yeah, I mean, I know this definitely felt more like a relationship thing, and also just how you view things in general, more so than the financial reading. But as far as finances go, I could see that as well, where it could just be saying that things might have been getting worked out behind the scenes during this retrograde for you guys, and with that hermit energy, that full moon in Virgo might bring a bit more to light, and then maybe might take until we get close to that Libra full moon, but by then it looks like things should be balanced. So hopefully that resonated with you. And lastly, we have a Mudra card. So the Mudra you guys got for this month is the Ajna Chakra Mudra. There it is there. The keyword for it is clarity. All right, and there's the info on it if you want to pause it or take a screenshot. But under benefits, it says awakens the Ajna Chakra, opens spiritual vision, stimulates the pituitary gland, clarifies the mind, improves concentration and intuition. So if that sounds like something you think would be beneficial for you guys, I will put the name of the Mudra in the description video as always. I'll wrap up there, and I'll see you all next month. All right, bye.